received a couple of phone calls from cheerleader parents about their practice space, which, you know, I knew that they practiced in the library. What I didn't know was they physically moved the furniture themselves, practice, and then move the furniture back. You know, I'm worried about liability with that. Also, being a former cheerleader, I know what the stunts look like. And I heard from one of the parents that the cheerleader hit the ceiling. Luckily, she was not injured. Another huge concern. So if they're going to do this competitive cheerleading, are we going to have an area for them that's appropriate to practice?
I'll answer. We don't currently. I mean, you know the situation.
I know.
So
I'm just worried for their safety.
In the fall, they will practice in the gymnasium where it's not an issue. Once winter sports starts, they have to move to the library. Once the building is done, they will have practice in the what's been called the Black Box Theater, back of the auditorium. And there that will eliminate any safety.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Takes us to C.
I'm sorry. You know, before we go into C, I know this has to do with the existing 1931 stone structure. I'm going to kind of rewind back to our work session where I thought Mr. McCleary had a pretty decent idea about, you know, let's advertise this 31 structure and see if we have any takers. I just don't feel comfortable making a motion to keep the building when we don't have information that would lead me to believe that we should keep the structure, if that makes sense. I would like to table that, to delay the voting on this until we come up with some organizations, groups, any interested parties that can validate spending our taxpayers' money on renovating this 31 structure. I just don't feel comfortable doing that tonight.
Jen,
Did I misspeak?
no. I think before we go through C, D, E, F, G, and H, I think we should get the presentation by Mr. Cousins.
Okay.
Few graphics that we're going through tonight, and additional items that aren't on the agenda that we want to bring to consideration due to timing. But first thing to talk on the 1931 building, one of the things we got to keep in mind is that the way with the suspension, the current project schedule being worked on by Lobar illustrates approximately a correct me if I'm wrong, a 4 to 5 month delay in the final completion of the project. What that essentially means is that it opens up to potential claims down the road. We've been talking with Lobar about the alternate for the 1931 building, and what that would allow the contractor to do is to take that last phase off the project. So the 1931 building, when you eliminate the demolition of that, you also eliminate the addition addition to the DAO. That is the portion of the phasing that is putting the project behind schedule. They can, if you want to add anything to that. So that is one of the items on consideration. I'll just kind of go through all the lists and then kind of come back and answer questions. The next item, once again, no graphics for it, but it's a change order to reduce the food service equipment in the amount of $33,000. Before I do, let me step back. We did receive some last minute pricing on item C that had to be revised. So if you want to make that correction, the credit amount to Farfield is actually $14,748.28. The $20,000 was a budget line item that we had put last week, and we received that final pricing. Also, with the motion for C, it should once again be contingent upon PlanCon Part I approval, and I would suggest also making it contingent upon borough approval of the revised Land Development Commission. On item D, this is a reduction of food service equipment. Essentially, when we were tasked with investigating cost reduction items for the project, we talked to all of our consultants, mechanical, plumbing, electrical engineers, food service consultant as well, and try to get a list of items for consideration. Our food service consultant developed a list of cost savings. This amount is based on that list. I will note the majority of those items, he suggested them as future items to be future purchased. So it's not like he's suggesting them to come out of the project altogether. They were just, and the items that he did suggest were items that the district was planning to use as kind of their money makers, a way to attract students to the food court and gain additional buying for the students. Item number E, actually this, once again with our stage consultant, we asked the same question. There was quite a few miscellaneous line items they suggested. One of them is actually recommended as far as better acoustics on the stage for the stage acoustical panels. This item has been reviewed with the administration, and they are in agreement with all the items that would be reduced as part of this change order. Item number F, this is more of an HVAC item. It's been reviewed with the facilities department, and they are good with changing the butterfly ball valves to butterfly valves for valves 2.5 inches or larger. Additionally, there are a couple other items that didn't make it to the agenda because we were waiting on contractor pricing. I want to go through them now. A couple of them I actually just received a couple hours before coming up here. But these are all items that are critical to making decisions at this time in the project to keep everything on schedule. So I'd ask that they be put on for consideration for approval or for vote. So one of the items we looked at is the main entrance design. For those of you who are familiar, this is the main entrance to the building. We were using manufactured stone veneer on here to mimic the same stone as the 1931 building. This is one of the areas we looked at for cost savings, replacing that stone with brick. So this is what that rendering looks like, replacing stone with brick. You see the credit down here, $35,351. So that is one option for the front entrance. The other option actually looks at reducing, taking this section of wall away. One of the concepts on the stone was kind of in through the old and into the new. And if it's no longer stone, then the concept kind of falls apart. But it does open up this entrance a little bit too. It'll be getting rid of that. That is a credit of $41,000. So if these would be an either or, either the $35,351 or $41,000.
Hey Scott.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
That blows my mind. $6,000.
Yeah, there is actually some steel changes that had to happen. So there was a little steel add. We're actually, because this is one of the ones I said that we got 2 hours before the meeting, and I realized there was a steel add. We're actually planning to work through that as much as possible and get some more cost reductions.
So I'm not doing one of that numbers.
No. When that came back, I had a conversation with them. I said, what's going on here? And they explained it. Our structural engineers are going to be looking into it. So I would expect this number, this is one of the ones that the contractor will need direction on as soon as possible to move forward, and then we can work on the miscellaneous steel items, and there might be another credit change on top of this. One of the other options, another place we looked at reducing the stone was the ticket booth interest. This is the current design. This actually looks at salvaging existing stone from the existing building and existing windows from the existing building, and then having a sloped roof similar to the 1931 structure with an arched entryway. We looked at eliminating the stone and going with brick. These walls could actually be used as donor panels or something like that. I know they kind of look bland in this rendering, but there's a lot of ideas for maybe the Alumni Association to take advantage of that. But this is a credit of $22,450 to go to this change. This is another one that's not on the agenda. We took that one step further. This is is now, this option is kind of a brick building with a sloped roof on it, so it's a little out of character. So we looked at just going to two simple flat roof structures for the ticket booths. This is a $38,243 credit. That's total, right? It's an either or. Once again, it's either, if you're considering either one of these for approval, it would be either the $22,450 or the $38,243. Yes.
The back one.
We did not. I know what you're going to ask. We did not actually get pricing in time for this to remove this lettering. Obviously, that's removed in this one. But with all the last-minute scrambles, this is actually something we are going to ask the contractor for pricing on, is removal of those letters as well there. So,
and just to clarify to people, on either side of that entryway, it was suggested by Mr. Caramino that right now in the stadium, the banners for the teams, they really don't have any place to put them, and that those two walls on either side would be a good place to put the banners for our team and the opposing team on either side.
sure. Okay, I'm going to move along quickly. I know you have a full agenda, so the last thing I wanted to just give an update on, there's nothing we need to be voting at this meeting, but this is what we refer to as scenario 2. We actually call it A, and I'll explain that in a second here. But this was investigating making modifications to the music edition. We had developed this to a point where it was far enough along where we could review with the administration. We sat down with the administration to look at the proposed plan. There were some major concerns with adjacencies between the band and choral room, having the two programs remote with the music office and some of the practice rooms, etc. So we actually kind of looked at some other ideas with how to achieve some of the reduction of the additions while maintaining the educational program. So this is kind of a different option for under scenario 2 upon scenario 2B. But essentially, we bring this space here. If you look back to this original rendering, this was a larger conference room and a weight room. If the 1931 building does come back, this will no longer be used for board meetings. Board meetings will happen in the main LGI at the high school. So we felt reduction of that was okay, and in order to get our adjacencies, so you have the band room, the music office, the choral rooms, everything, and now it's one compact music program. And to answer some questions in the future, this would be like new space. In other words, all new finishes, all new HVAC, all new lighting, all new doors, paint, ceilings, etc., acoustical treatments. So it would be, for all intents and purposes, like a new space, just as part of the building. And what we did with the weight room was actually showed it as a small addition out here, and you get the adjacency between the gymnasium and the wellness center still remains. what this allowed us to do is not only achieve the educational program goals for the music program, but also allowed us to reduce the additions even further. So we're estimating this might be another $100,000 worth of savings once we make that change. I think it was a win-win kind of concept, and this was reviewed with the administration and received well. So that's kind of where we're at in the process. I think at the next board meeting, whether it be the work session or the following board meeting, we've been receiving a lot of little miscellaneous pricing. So far, we've been kind of just approving the ones that are critical for schedule. I think at the next meeting, whenever we decide to do so, we can bring quite a few to the table for consideration, kind of start cleaning up some of the items that we have outstanding. So, questions?
Right, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to consider approval change order in the credit amount of $701,200 to Go Bar Incorporated, the credit amount of $14,748.28 to Barfield, credit amount of $33,578.50 to Silvertip, and to add the amount of $20,000 to Lecce Electric for not demolishing the existing 1931 stone building and eliminating the district administration office addition as defined in alternate bid items GC 18, HC 6, PC 8, and EC 16, contingent on PDE approval of Plan Part I and borough approval of the revised land development plan.
Mr. Snell? Down here? I believe Mrs. Marriott had something on the table and you asked her to hold off. Courtesy there.
Thank you, Mr. Conkle.
You can't say the motion until the motion is made. Right. And now the motion's been made. Since that. And second.
So would now be the time that I would say I'd like to table that until we can get some more data and information?
Yes, now would be the time that you would say that to table it, correct?
Well, then I'd like to make a motion to table miscellaneous matter items 6C.
Second.
At least the part about the existing 1931 stone building, you know, until we can gather enough information to see if we have interested parties that, like I said earlier, can validate us spending precious taxpayer money on this 1931 structure. If not, it would be a complete waste of taxpayer money.
You just stated,
Mr. Snell, may I make a comment?
go ahead.
I had a phone call from a lady over the weekend, and she thought it would be a good idea to use part of that for, you can call it a museum if you want, for Flight 800.
Mr. McCleary brought up a good point on the tabling of motion. There is no debate, so we will take the vote. I have a roll call vote.
Could I have a motion on that, please?
The motion is to table the previous motion. And we had a second. And could we get a roll call vote on it,
Mr. Hagermeyer?
No.
Mrs. Johns? No. Mr. Horkel?
please? Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Mrs. Marriott?
Yes.
Mr. McCleary?
No.
Mr. Ruffing?
Yes.
Mr. Snell?
No.
Mrs. Wright?
Of course.
Scott, I'd like you to explain what holding up this vote would do.
Just to say this time, I'm going to actually go out and a bit more, but I'll just give you a summary. You know, they haven't finalized their schedule yet. In other words, what the general contractor does is he owns the schedule, he generates the schedule, he gets input from the other primes once they have input, and finalize everything that is issued to all the subcontractors. The thought is at that time, that's when we might see claims, given the 4 to 5 month additional time on the end of the project, and I'll.
Well, what Scott just said is correct. Right now, we're 5 months over. Obviously, we're going to do everything we can to shorten that time. There's no doubt that adopting this approach, particularly with respect to the not constructing the DAO portion of that element, does save time. And we'd be hopeful, as a result of that, of getting pretty close to our original time.
What will be the penalty for eliminating the demolition on that? The person who was supposed to, or whoever is supposed to bid it, we will have to pay them what their perceived profit would be on it, correct?
I think they'd be entitled to that by contract.
Yeah, okay. Has that been,
That would all be
is there a
factored
number on that yet?
That would all be factored into the change order.
Bob, I did question some things on it. One of them being are those costs figured into this final cost savings? And I was assured it was figured in. I also questioned if closing in the north end of that building was figured into this cost savings, and I was assured it is. So that would not be additional costs.
Did you say that the closing off the north end was figured into this savings?
Yes, that's correct. At the time of bidding, if you recall, when we had the alternate bid line item for all the prime contractors, that's essentially what this pricing is reflected on. When we did that, it was not only sectioned off, you know, where the 1931 building ends and I think the date of the next edition was, but you know, rehipping that roof down there, refacing that exterior, putting in an exterior door. And it also factors backfeeding all the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems so that you can, you know, essentially mothball it and keep it up to the minimum temperatures. It does not include, I think there was a little bit of fire alarm work, which the code officials wanted to see when we went through the whole process to begin with. Other than that, no renovation work.
So the north end would look like the rest of the building?
Correct.
It's
It actually
stone.
looked like the south end stone, yep,
Okay,
with the hip, yep. We have that step.
I see. Thank you, Scott.
We now move back to our original motion. At this time, I want to make a motion to extend the meeting for half an hour.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll go back to the original motion, and I can read it again if anybody needs it read. We have a motion to approve and a second. Mrs. Secretary, could we have a
Comment or questions?
I apologize. I should have said questions or comments. I
Okay.
apologize.
Mr. Snell, what will it cost if we don't find a taker for this building? Well, first of all, how many interested parties do we have so far?
I believe we have another year that the students need to be in it. We are starting to look, and you as a board member could also help with that, as all the other board members, coming up with ideas, talking to the community and getting ideas from the community, that would help you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Snell. The question was, how many parties do we have right now that are interested in it?
We haven't started the search yet.
Is the answer 0?
We haven't started the search
The
yet.
answer is 0. Could you tell me if that number remains 0 and we're stuck with this building, could you give me an idea, or give us all an idea what the annual cost will be to maintain it and the upkeep? Do you have a number for that?
No, you don't.
I don't want to keep it. I don't know. No, I would not have a number. I would expect that before that you would even propose such a thing, that you should know what our risk is. We're nowhere near ready to vote on this. We have basically, here's what we have to go on. We have Ron Snell telling us we're going to save $700 and some thousand by not tearing it down. Period. I don't think anybody would be comfortable with that.
No.
And we need more information. We need a lot more information.
First of all, we don't have Ron Snell telling us that. We have the experts that you hired and that you have trusted up to this point, and now all of a sudden you don't trust them.
No, let me reword that. I'm sorry, you're correct. You're correct. Yeah, you're correct. I'll reword that. We have a figure of, say, $775,000 that we're going to save today. Why not tearing it down? What I want to know is, we're not, like I said earlier, we're not real estate speculators. And even if we were, we wouldn't go for something like this. Because we're looking at, if I'm not mistaken, quite some time ago, maybe a year ago or whatever, I think Scott told us to refurbish that building, to bring it back to what it once was. I think, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, did you throw out a figure of $3 million?
I don't want to shout
I'm not
something out,
holding
but
you to this.
I
don't
think
have
it was around a little north of $2 million, and that was total renovation cost, not factoring in the cost savings from that. That was, as we looked at it in the study for educational purposes up to today's standard. So certainly if the depending on who comes in there, that cost could decrease theoretically, but yeah, as for purposes of the school, I think it was around $2.2 million for renovation.
2.2?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
To make it for a school.
Correct.
Okay, so Mr. Snell, if we keep this building, how will that benefit the students? How will that benefit the taxpayers? How will that benefit the school district? How will that benefit anybody? What's the educational value? What's the educational purpose? That's what we're here for. We're here for to provide for the students. So how will this provide for our students, keeping that old building?
Well, one thing that will be looked at and has been suggested in it will be looked into is for the district to start a latchkey program in there. And getting students before that need taken care of before school and after school. And even if it just pays, even if it's not a moneymaker, but it just pays for the upkeep of the building, it'll be a plus to this community because the community will also be able to use the building.
Okay, we have commitments?
Not yet.
I asked him, no.
I'll give you the same answer she gave you. She's a board member and I believe that her voice is just as strong.
That's fine, just give me the answer. Do we have a commitment?
Mrs. Johnson.
I just started the research, so no, not right now.
Okay, so this is all just a gamble. That's what this is. This is we're rolling the dice. We don't have anybody interested. We have no commitment from anybody. We have a building that needs a lot of repair. As Mr. Cousin just noted, you're looking at like $2.2 million. You'd have to put at least $1 million into it. There's nobody going to come along and take use of that building and put money in to renovate it without expecting a long-term lease. And you can't.
Mr. Cousins, there's a big difference between renovate and repair. Am I correct?
Well, it all depends on use. Like I said, we evaluate it for educational purposes. Obviously there's code deficiencies in there, which I think some of them have been addressed. There's structural issues, so flooring. Off the top of my head, I can tell you what it would take for another purpose.
The biggest codes violations that's left, I believe, are aren't they the rafters that need repaired properly, and the flooring that needs floor joist needs.
Well, what would be it? In other words, if you're talking about the list that we have right now,
Yeah.
based on our present usage and all, in terms of that building, we were mostly finished with the stuff that we felt was the most concerning, okay? Actually, I think there would be some consideration by CK Club too, depending on how we decide how things would go. There are some things like railings and that type of thing. I'm ready to go. I have the information I need. But I haven't quite pulled the trigger because it depends on what we do. Okay? And CK Club is very cooperative that way. Meeting with them again Tuesday. We're going to go over our list and see where we are. I'll be able to report better maybe the next meeting. But as I say, we've done the things that seemed the most concerning in that building. And CK Club is satisfied with where we are.
So we're still discussing this, now we're talking about latchkey. So we're talking about putting preschool children in there, or even children who are, and I understand what latchkey is, elementary children. We're going to put children in this building. Do we have any idea how much money we would have to put in that to make that a suitable structure to keep children in? I'd say you're going to dump a lot of money in it to make it suitable for that purpose. If you wanted to use it, I could see if you wanted to use it for a warehouse or something, but if you're going to actually have it occupied by young children, I'd like to know how much we got to put into it, what our commitment is to put into it to make it acceptable, who's going to take it, how much they're going to pay, how long the lease we're going to get. I mean, we are not anywhere close to even making a decision on this. We don't have, the information we have is minuscule. We need a lot more information. This is a big, big gamble. In my personal opinion, 4 years from now, another school board's going to look at that and say, what were they thinking? And they're going to bring the bulldozer in. And then instead of costing $700 and some thousand to knock it down, it's certainly not going to be any cheaper in the future. What we're doing is we're leaving a burden for the next board. If we keep that school, we're going to just leave a burden for the next school board to deal with.
And if we don't save money, we're leaving a burden for the next board too.
If we don't save money. We don't know if we're gonna save money. We don't know that. We don't have the information. We don't know what the annual upkeep is gonna be on a building, that if it doesn't find an occupant, we end up with a vacant building that we're paying the upkeep and the taxes and everything else on for the next, well, until the next board comes in and they tear it down.
Is that all?
No, it's not all. This is a huge risk that we don't have near the information that we should have to make a decision. This is a shot in the dark, is all this is. Okay, and I understand Mr. John said they're looking into something, but looking into is just that. We're looking into something. Okay? You can't do this. You can't just tell the taxpayers, you know, we think that we might have a use for it, but if we don't, we'll board it up and we'll pay to keep it up every year.
Mr. Snell, I'd like to ask Mr. Cousins, a latchkey program would that require school codes for the upkeep of the building? We have to meet the codes.
I believe that's a educational use group, so it would probably be similar. It wouldn't be as rigorous and maybe some of the technology that we're putting in the high school, but pretty
So it'd
similar.
be on the higher end. Than like a daycare or something. Okay, thank you.
You know, Mr. Snell, one of the problems we've always had with the high school here is traffic flow. Okay? So now we're going to put a latchkey in there with elementary children. It was bad enough we had high school kids, you know, traversing the traffic out front. Now we're going to have latchkey students. I think that would personally not be a good use at all. We need more information.
You finished?
Are you?
You may roll call vote, please.
Why waste your time?
Yes.
And you're going to read, Brandy?
You want me to reread it?
Yeah, please reread the motion and you'll take a roll call vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Consider approval, change order in the credit amount of $701,200 to Lobar Inc., a credit amount of $17,748.28. Oh, sorry, $14,748.28 to Barfield, a credit amount of $33,578.50 to Silvertip, and add the amount of $20,000 to Lecce Electric for not demolishing the existing 1931 stone building and eliminating the district office addition as defined in alternative bid item GC18, HC6, PC8, and EC16. Contingent on PD approval of Plan Con Part I and contingent on the Montoursville Borough approval of the revised land development plan. Mr. Hagemeyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Johns.
Yes.
Mr. Kunkel.
No.
Mr. Logue.
No.
Ms. Marriott.
No.
Mr. McCleary.
Yes.
Mr. Ruffing.
No,
Mr. Snell.
Yes.
Mrs. Wright.
Come on, Karen.
ridiculous.
Do the right thing. Do the right thing. For once, do the right thing. Think for yourself. I'm not afraid of you, Ron. I didn't care.
Now I'd like to make a motion to consider a change order in the amount of $33,637 to Lobar Incorporated for reducing the scope of food service equipment contingent on PDE approval of Plan Con Part I.
Motion to approve.
Second. Questions or comments?
Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
This is the equipment that they wanted to use for after-hour program, is that correct?
That's correct.
Could we have an idea of what we're going to eliminate here?
There was a list, and I don't know if I have the actual list on.
For those folks that aren't aware, this is items that I believe Mr. Mr. T, tell me if I'm wrong, employ a person after hours to be there, to be a cashier, so some kids can grab a drink, a sandwich, a salad. This is equipment kind of like a grab and go. So I believe this is vital to our kids. First of all, their health, their nutrition, and I think
And their safety.
it's a great concept. And I would hate to see this in one area.
It also has the potential to pay for itself. If anything that they sell here that the Andy Market doesn't sell, not Andy Market, whatever they are, it could pay for itself.
I can clarify some of that equipment.
Yeah, please.
One of the things was in the deli area, for the make your own sub type thing, like Subway. I'm going to ask if you want it toasted or not. That was one of the, I call it Easy Bake Oven, I forget the official name of it. That was one of the items. Another item were 2 cooking stations to provide some of the smells of food cooking and allow kids to kind of make to order type items in the cafeteria to help boost sales, get those smells into the cafeteria. Breakfast, to boost our breakfast program with the made to order omelets, that type of thing. Those were 2 big things. There were 2 grab and go areas in the food court area. That was designed so that students on a Friday night or when they have any sporting event, because of the size of the district, it's hard for kids to get back home and grab a sandwich or their Gatorade. So they're running off campus to it's not Union anymore, the Exxon station on Broad Street. This way we can keep that open for them to grab their Gatorade, grab a sandwich, grab a salad, something after school, eat in the cafeteria and head off to practice or their event. Another item was I'm going by memory, so was the blower for the dishwasher. We cannot hand dry the department. Is it Department of Ag or Health? Yeah. Whoever inspects the cafeterias, I think it's Department of Ag. We are not allowed to hand dry anything that in the cafeteria. So trays, we would have to have a tray for every kid for all 3 lunches because we can't hand dry those trays. We'd have to increase utensils, we'd have to increase cooking pans, all of that, because we would remove the blower from the dishwasher. There was a disposal that was being removed from the kitchen area on that list. They would have to take that waste and bring it up to the dishwasher area to dispose of that waste. So it's an inconvenience for our staff. And then the final thing was a washer and dryer for their rags, cloths. They can't hand dry, but they do have rags back there for their hands. So I think that's the whole list. Those were the items. Those were what we wanted as ways to generate revenue in the cafeteria. When you look at participation in the district, the high school is the worst in terms of cafeteria participation. In the month of April, and I'm going by memory on this too, Randy generated a report for just the month of April on sales. The middle school was over 12,000 in sales. We were just over 7,000. So there's a $5,000 difference there. The difference is the type of cafeteria that the middle school has as compared to us. We think we can make up that difference. 8 months of that will pay the $40,000 for this equipment. So it's our belief, and I put that in the packet, that this equipment is necessary for us to generate revenue, to help the cafeteria, and help the high school participation rates for our food service.
Yeah, you know what you happen to know what the attendance difference is between high school and middle school?
I don't have the participation rate. I saw the revenue for 1 month. We can certainly get that. I know that the breakfast is abysmal. We have very few kids eating breakfast here, and as we see our free and reduced numbers increase, breakfast is probably one of the more important meals for our kids to start the day, and we need to boost that. So
Well, what I meant is, students, the amount of students at the high school versus the amount of students right now.
The enrollment,
Yeah.
they're similar. The 4 grades of around 600 each. Yeah, so it's comparing apples to apples in terms of numbers of kids.
Questions or comments? Anyone?
Mr. Hagemeyer.
No.
Mrs. Johns.
No.
Mr. Kunkel.
Yes.
Mr. Logue.
Yes.
Mrs. Marriott.
Yes.
Mr. McCleary.
I want the motion to be read.
I think,
Start over?
Yes.
let me read that because Mr. Conkle and Mrs. Marriott, I'm not sure. The motion is to consider approval for the change order in the amount of $33,637 to Lowbar Incorporated for reducing the scope of work. So a no vote doesn't accept it, a yes vote reduces the equipment.
Thank you.
So a no vote will keep this in.
Correct.
Correct.
A no vote will keep the equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Start from the beginning. Mr. Hagemeyer.
No.
Mrs. Johns.
No.
Mr. Kunkel. Mr. Logue.
No.
Mrs. Marriott.
No.
Mr. McCleary.
No.
Mr. Ruffing.
No.
Mr. Snell.
No,
Mrs. Wright.
motion fails.
We're running out of time with the meeting. I know you it's adjourned at 9:30, and there's 2 very critical schedule items. If you're going to make any changes, now's the time to do them on the entrance and the ticket booth. And then we need to get that plan on RI vote in there as well. So if I would suggest, if you're going to consider those, making motions for those 2 items before we get to the rest of it.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve 6G and 6H. 6G being consider approval of Plan Con Part 1 for the previous approved change orders exceeding plus or minus $19,400, including associated Plan Con Part F revisions. And H is consider resubmission of the revised land development plans associated with keeping the existing 1931 stone building to the borough of Matoursville along with associated fees.
What are those fees?
$7,000. Do I have a second? Questions or comments besides the 7,000? And I will say that the borough has indicated that they would work with that $7,000 fee, possibly lowering it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
And the other item would be, if you're looking to do anything with the front entrance or the ticket booth, we'll look at that tonight for us, the contractors, constructing it as is.
I'd like to make a motion to make a change order on the ticket booth to change from stone to brick without the arched doorway, keeping the roof, and the change order in the credit amount of $2,450.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there ticket windows on the outer side?
There are 4 ticket windows. One essentially in here, on this side, and then the other side, and then the other side. So essentially the lines, just like that.
Thank you.
Hey, Scott, would there be any way to close that off where you walk through there? It doesn't appear.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't show up in rendering. There's actually gates here, here, and here.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Mr. Heckermeyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Johns.
Yes.
Mr. Kunkel.
Yes.
Mr. Logue.
Yes.
Mrs. Marriott.
Yes.
Mr. McCleary.
Yes.
Mr. Ruffing.
Yes.
Mr. Snell.
Yes.
Mrs. Wright.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Snell?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the front of the building with the design that has, right there. There will be, main entrance, brick in lieu of stone, with reduced size. I make a motion to accept that.
Second.
Questions or comments? Yes.
Mr. Snell, contingent on PDC approval.
Right.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Heckermeyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Johns. Mr. Kunkel. Mr. Logue. Mrs. Marriott.
Yes.
Mr. McCleary.
Yes.
Mr. Ruffing.
Yes.
Mr. Snell.
Yes.
Mrs. Wright.
Yes.
Motion carries. I'd like to make a motion to consider approval of change order in the credit amount of $8,339 to Bar Incorporated for reducing the scope of work of the stage rigging.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I just have a question. Mr. T, this is directed at you again. I believe we spoke that this would be acceptable.
Yeah, it doesn't compromise the program in any way, and some of those changes we were going to bring to recommend anyway.
Thank you.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Heckermeyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Johns. Mr. Kunkel. Mr. Logue. Mrs. Marriott.
Yes.
Mr. McCleary.
Yes.
Mr. Ruffing.
Yes.
Mr. Snell.
Yes.
Mrs. Wright.
Yes.
Motion carries. I'd like to make a motion to approve the change order in the credit amount of $10,000 to Farfield for replacing ball valves with butterfly valves for HVAC isolation valves 2.5 inch or larger. Do I have a second?
Second.
A question. Is a butterfly valve the same as a gate valve?
I'm a mechanical engineer, but from what I understand, no.
What is, because a ball valve is more resistant to corrosion than.
Correct. And the discussion was, regardless of what valve gets put in there, based on with water conditions here at the high school, we're going to maintenance departments can exercise it.
Okay.
So avoid any of those failures. Certainly have.
Mr. I'd like to address Joe sitting back there. This is acceptable to maintenance staff.
Yes, we're fine.
Thank you.
Mr. Heckermeyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Johns. Mr. Kunkel. Mr. Logue. Mrs. Marriott.
Yes.
Mr. McCleary.
Yes.
Mr. Ruffing.
Yes.
Mr. Snell.
Yes.
Mrs. Wright.
Motion carries. Report of the business manager.
I'm recommending approval of these items listed under the report of the business manager, item 1A.
Motion
This
to
is the same
approve.
as last year.
Motion to approve.
Second. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, as all of you know, we have been reviewing the previously presented budget and we are bringing it back to the board tonight with a few adjustments. You will see an increase in revenues mainly due to the preliminary from the state and federal funding. You'll also see some changes in wages and benefits due to district receiving 2 retirements since the last presentation. We also had some items that were previously missed on the maintenance budget that was added back into the budget. Another change is we had previously budgeted a 5% increase for the IU contract. After receiving the contract, we are seeing a 12% increase in costs. We will continue to work on the final budget until it is approved. At this time, I am recommending approval of items listed under the report of the business manager, item 2A through E.
Motion to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I am recommending the approval of items listed under the report of the business manager, items 3A through 3B.
Motion to approve.
Second. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I am recommending the approval of items listed under the report of the business manager, items 4A through E.
Motion to approve.
Oh, whoa, whoa. 4A through B?
4A
What she
through
said.
E.
E, 4A through E.
Can we separate those?
Yeah, can we separate that?
Okay, there are no changes here, but we certainly can. Item 4A.
That's the recommended nomination and election of George Hagemeyer as treasurer for the 16-17 fiscal year.
Correct.
Okay.
Motion to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
Can I do B through E?
Yes.
Okay, I'm recommending approval of the items listed on the report of the business manager, items 4B through E.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
It don't matter. Time's up.
Time's
What
up.
does it matter?
Time's up. Time's up.
You don't need it. It automatically expires.
Really like picking